Hey everyone, before we get into this video, I kind of wanted to do a pre-intro style message that this is a redo of an episode which I did last week, which was the first episode of my Yu-Gi-Oh! Lore Duels series. I wasn't necessarily really too proud of that episode looking back upon it. I felt like I was winging it a bit too much and wanted to take the opportunity to try and redo this again. And hopefully this video turns out a bit more concise, a bit more informative, and a little bit less just winging it, you know. Let me know if this is any better than the last week's episode. If you find, thank you for tuning in again, and there won't be much of a gap between this episode and an actual brand new episode, which the next episode will be on Gishki monsters, so hopefully you will look forward to that. Anyway, let's get into today's episode. Hey everyone, my name is Sean Arnold and welcome to the first episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Lore Duels. This is a little bit of a journey I'm taking to go back in time to explore some archetypes which I wasn't really around for when they first came out. And today's archetype which I'm going to be exploring is the Gem Knight archetype, one which I have easily fallen in love with since starting to practice with them, and I think they're absolutely fantastic. They're an archetype which was used by a character named Julia Crystal in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc V anime, but their actual real debut came into the Yu-Gi-Oh! Dual Terminal series, which is an arcade version of Yu-Gi-Oh! Available in some places in the US, but mostly throughout Japan, where you take cards and actually put them onto a screen, and they come up as little holograms or so on and so forth. In the Dual Terminal series, they have their own story, and I'm not going to go through too much detail of what the story is, but it goes something along the lines of this. The Gem Knights are a group of warriors endowed with the power of minerals, and they value honor above all else and disapprove of battle for the sake of battle. However, with the world being the way it is, they get brought into a lot of battles, sometimes against the Lavals and against the Vylons and other clans as well in the series. At one point, however, they have to form an alliance in order to take on the Steelswarm army, which is a deck I will be doing in a couple of days, and find a way to kind of overcome that threat, which has been spearheaded by a clan called the Vylons. So that's kind of who the Gem Knights are. They're really about being protective, looking after each other, and looking after the world, and they really want to kind of keep peace and harmony in the world. What I really mostly like about this archetype though is their deck design. They kind of it seems like whoever created this design really had a good look at the fusion mechanic archetype and tried to just make it even better. There are decks in today's modern age such as Duels, which I think do fusion summoning a little bit better than Gem Knights do, but I really kind of appreciate the effort that they have kind of gone through to kind of make fusion summoning a lot better than what it used to be. Fusion summoning is inherently very costly. It's very expensive to do so, because by default you are losing 2 monsters and 1 spell card for the gain of a monster, and a monster that doesn't necessarily gonna win you the game, it just is a bigger monster. So I really kind of appreciate the way they try to overcome this. With it being my turn now, I'm going to kind of just explain some of my moves here and kind of just try and demonstrate why they're so good at doing what they're doing. As you can see, my opponent went first, established a Blue Eyes board, kind of went a bit too hasty there with the Spirit Dragon tag out to Azure Eyes Dragon, but whatever, it doesn't matter to me here. So first card which I used was Absorb Fusion to get my Gem Knight Fusion out of my deck to my hand. Then I played Into the Void, which is a card which allows me to draw 1 card, but in my end phase I must discard my entire hand. That's not going to be too bad though, and typically with Gem Knights you're going to find yourself using a lot of your resources from your hand quite thoroughly. This is something which I had to get used to. I am mostly designed to be a control player. I like to hold as my resources and manage my resources as much as possible and try to kind of spar with my opponent back and forth, but this deck wants you to go all out, and as you can see here I am doing a fusion summoning with 3 monsters in order to bring out a big monster called Gem Knight and Lady Brilliant Diamond. Lady Brilliant Diamond is an amazing card. It is one of the boss monsters in this deck, not the only boss monster in this deck, but it works out so well. Furthermore, Gem Knights are so good at recycling their resources, by using Gem Knight Obsidian through a fusion summon, I got to special summon Gem Knight Amber from my graveyard, which is going to be useful in a moment. Furthermore, even more than this, just to keep on bringing the idea of recycling, Gem Knight Fusion can also bring itself back from the graveyard by banishing one Gem Knight monster from your grave, and there's no limit to how many times a turn you can do this, making it really good for recycling. Now I've normal summoned Gem Knight Amber using its Gemini effect, and it's gained the effect to allow me to discard one Gem Knight monster from my hand, or Gem Knight card from my hand, and then gain well from my banish power and add it to my hand. I shouldn't have used Lazuli in this situation, I should have used Gem Knight Fusion, but it's still going to work out for me in the long run anyway. Playing Gem Knight Fusion again, I'm now going to do another Fusion summon, and in this situation I'm just going to bring out a big beat stick by bringing out Gem Knight Zirconia. Zirconia is easily one of the most versatile Gem Knight Fusions to use. All it requires is one Gem Knight and one Rock monster, which pretty much all of them are either a Gem Knight or a Rock monster, so yeah, it's really easy to bring out for that purpose. And again, once again, I'm using Gem Knight Fusion again, which can be recycled, and I'm using Obsidian, which is going to trigger again, and therefore I can bring back another monster from the grave to the field. In this situation, I'm just going to go for Amber once again. No real difference between bringing Amber or Lapis in this situation because of what I'm going to do next. But hopefully you're starting to see kind of the power of this deck, where you can just constantly recycle your fusions and do them again and again and again, and really get your worth out of them. Speaking of which, Lady Brilliant's effect is now going to kick in. Lady Brilliant can send one Gem Knight monster from my field to the graveyard, and then will allow me to special summon a Gem Knight monster from my deck to the field, as if though it was fusion summoned. And the one which I'm going to do in this situation is going to go for Lapis Lazuli. Lady Lapis Lazuli, I should say. Lady Lapis Lazuli has a unique effect where it can send one Gem Knight monster from my deck or my extra deck to the graveyard, and that will allow me to burn my opponent for 500 times the number of special summon monsters on the field. So Kaiba there or Shadow lost 2,000 life points because there are 4 special summon monsters in the field. Now I'm going to be able to attack for his monster and swing at him directly. And you kind of want to basically play this in a way where you win in one turn. I'm not very good at it, as you can probably work out by adding up the numbers here. I'm not going to do enough to kind of burn my opponent there, but I try to do what I can, you know, and I'm sure other people that will pick this up will be able to do this a lot better than I can. One thing which I do want to mention before the end of this duel comes about is Lazuli and what she does overall. While Lazuli is also there for the burn effect, she also sets up further plays. She sets up plays for another monster called Gem Knight Master Diamond, who you won't see in this duel, unfortunately. Gem Knight Master Diamond allows me to banish one level 7 or lower Gem Knight monster in my graveyard, and it takes its effect. You can do crazy combos with this. If I had one more Gem Knight monster in my hand, I could have even won the duel there by using Gem Knight Fusion again, giving off sending 3 Gem Knights to the graveyard, and then using this effect to copy Lazuli's effect and then keep on burning. As well as that, I could also use monsters such as Topaz or Ruby to take their effects and really make him into a big threat. I'll talk about this a bit more when we come to the deck profile, but hopefully this gives you guys a bit of an idea of just some of the crazy combos and potential a deck like this has. It is a deck which wants to win very, very quickly, but doesn't always do so, fortunately I have cards like Bottomless Trap Hole to back me up here. My opponent is playing a monster which I'm not really too familiar with, but it's going to try and bring back Blue Eyes, so let's see if he can do that, and he's going to give it a shot. Not really many options here for Shadow. I find that a lot of people are playing underpowered Blue Eyes. I don't call them fully powered because they haven't got their other key cards such as Alternative Dragon and Chaos Max, but a lot of people are still trying to play it nonetheless, and if you can survive their onslaught of while they're setting up their boards, you can kind of get through it either way. So let's go into a deck profile for this deck. So here's the deck build which I was using for my Gem Knight deck. I'm going to keep calling them Crystal Gems because of Steven Universe, but I'm going to try and remember what the actual name is. This deck mostly runs like an OTK deck, however OTK is not really my personal style. I'm not very good at doing OTK decks, and what I find with Gem Knights is while they're good at doing what they do, they are also kind of out of date. They're a little bit of an old deck, and because of this, I do run a couple of stun cards in there just so I can keep up or don't necessarily get overwhelmed by more modern style decks. So those cards which I'm referring to are cards like Triple Maxi. I think for the Legacy of the Duelist environment, you have to run Triple Maxi because you never know what you're going to run into, and you never want to get you never want to be running second without Maxi. In my opinion, you want to always be prepared to keep up with someone that establishes their board quite early. But this is the main core of the deck. I'll take out I'll delete you for a second because I don't need you there. But the main core of the deck is this here. It has a very low monster count as needed. You don't really want to draw a lot of monsters to the deck. You want to necessarily keep them in the deck for your brilliant fusion. But the main deck runs like this as follows. We have 2 copies of Lazuli and 2 copies of Obsidian. These are your recovery monsters. This is what makes the deck work so well. Anytime you fusion summon, you want to use Obsidian and or Lazuli, so that anytime they're sent to the graveyard by an effect, or in some cases Obsidian can be sent to the graveyard by even a cost, you want to get something back for your efforts. Lazuli will give you back a normal monster from your graveyard to your hand, and Gem Knight Obsidian will give you a level 4 or lower normal monster from your graveyard and allow you to special summon it. Both are equally as good, both are equally as vital here, and they combo quite well with a lot of other cards. The normal monsters which you typically will target with these are Lapis, 2 copies of Garnet, or 2 copies of Amber, who is a Gemini monster. Amber is pretty good because he's a Thunder type, which allows you to access cards such as Prismora, and sometimes maybe Topaz, but I don't always use Topaz. It also has a nice effect because when you normal summon it and activate its Gemini summon, you can discard a card, preferably Obsidian, and then add 1 Gem Knight monster from your banish pile to your hand. So it's really good for recovery in that kind of sense. The other monsters, they're there just for flavor, for the ability to go into different summons. Garnet is there for being a beat stick, but also goes into Ruby, which can be good for its piercing damage and getting over big beat sticks. Lapis is there to go into Lady Lapis Lazuli, who does amazing burn damage, and sometimes you just want to be able to go into her directly, although you don't always need to go through Lapis to do so, which is why I'm only running 1 of these cards. Similarly here, to help you with searching, we have Gem Armadillo and Crystal Rose. Really wish Crystal Rose had Gem Knight in its name. Apparently in the anime it did, but then they changed it for the actual release of the game. Crystal Rose allows you to send 1 monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard. That's a Gem Knight monster, and this monster's name becomes the same as it. So send a Lapis to the send a Lazuli to the graveyard. This becomes Lazuli, and then you get to recover a monster which is in your graveyard to your hand. Really great card. Furthermore, if this is in your graveyard at any point, you can banish 1 fusion monster from your graveyard and special summon it in defense position, allowing you to recycle it more and more and more. The only thing that really hurts this card is that, again, its name is not Gem Knight, which is why I'm only using 1 of these. If it was a Gem Knight card, I would be running 3 of these. And sometimes I just don't ever see it, so yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag there. Armadillo's pretty good. He adds Gem Knight's monsters from your deck to your hand. Normally you'll go into Obsidian for this because Obsidian likes to be in your hand as opposed to other places, but really it's just a +1 card. Not necessarily the greatest thing, but it is also a rock type, which allows it to go into be used as a fusion summon for Zirconia, which is a big beat stick. The highlight of this deck though are not in the weenie monsters, they are in the spells cards, and therefore the biggest card which you really always need to get into your hand is Gem Knight Fusion. Gem Knight Fusion is there because it is your fusion summon card, plus it recycles itself from the graveyard, as you've probably seen in the duel earlier, allowing you to fusion summon over and over and over again. You have to get this card ASAP. Most Gem Knight players, if they've lost a game, it's usually because they didn't get to fusion quick enough, and therefore to help you with that, you've got 3 copies of Absorb Fusion, which allows you to add 1 Gem Knight card from your deck to your hand. It has a secondary effect where you can fusion summon with this by banishing your cards, but you don't normally want to banish these monsters directly from your hand or field. You want to do that from the graveyard, and because it won't trigger effects like Obsidian and Lazuli's effect by being banished, so you don't normally go for that, but this is just a searcher, so you're running for 6 copies of Gem Knight Fusion. Alternatively, you also have Brilliant Fusion, which is their version of Future Fusion, and this card is really good. I'm sure a lot of people know what Brilliant Fusion does, but if not, you summon it, you choose 1 Gem Knight Fusion monster from your extra deck, and you send your materials from your deck to the graveyard, but that monster comes out with 0 attack and defense. Normally your target for that is to go into Lady Brilliant. Lady Brilliant lets you send 3 Gem Knight monsters from your deck to the graveyard. However, Lady Brilliant's effect kind of covers up for the fact that she comes out with 0 attack and 0 defense, but we'll talk about her a little bit later. Alternatively, you can go into things like Lazuli directly or any other monster, but normally you will go for Lady Brilliant for Brilliant Fusion. Don't forget, however, that I normally forget this, but you can also restore your monster's attack and defense by discarding a card. If you have a spare Gem Knight Fusion in your hand, discard it, recover your monster's attack and defense, and then you've got a really big beater on your side of the field. Foolish Burial is there because we're milling in this deck, we want to get things in the graveyard. Normally, again, it's for Lazuli to recover, but if you don't have a normal monster, I would love to use Foolish Burial, send a monster to the graveyard, then Brilliant Fusion, and send 2 Lazulis to the graveyard to recover 2 normal monsters, and that would be really works out really well. Instant Fusion is here for Norden. Simply, it's Norden, and Norden goes into rank 4 plays. Just another thing to help out with the deck a bit. And then we have Into the Void, a card which activates when you only have 3 or more cards in your hand, and then you get to draw 1 card. It does force you to discard your entire hand at the during the end phase, but that doesn't really hurt you too much considering you have Lazuli and Obsidian to kind of make up for that. Plus, you normally spend your entire hand when you're playing Gem Knight, so this downside doesn't really hurt you too much. Raigeki is Raigeki, and Twin Twister, you definitely need Twin Twister because you don't want to have a back row to deal with when you're fighting against your opponent. I originally also had Royal Decree, but because of the format in Legacy of the Duelist, you don't know whether you're going to run into a back row heavy deck or a special summoning deck, and I find dealing with back row is a little bit easier than, say, dealing with big special summons, so there's that. And then, of course, Upstart Goblin. Like I said, all the other cards in this deck are just there for disruption and just slowing down your opponent, and yeah, they're there for that reason, but feel free to change those if you want to. As with the extra deck, like I said, Lady Brilliant Diamond is one of your main monsters. It allows you to choose 1 Gem Knight that's face up on your field and special summon a different fusion monster from your extra deck. It's a tag, really. You tag out 1 that you have on your field for any other in your extra deck, makes it really, really versatile. If you can, like in my earlier duel, if you can get a weak monster on the field and tag that out, that works out well. But if you've used Brilliant Fusion to bring out Gem Knight and you can't restore her attack and defense, then you could just use her as well and go into something like Lazuli, who can start milling and start burning your opponent. Lazuli is the second most important monster in this deck, who can mill any Gem Knight monster from your deck or your extra deck to the graveyard, and then inflict 500 damage per special summon monster on the field. This works out really, really well, and it just reminded me that I'm missing a card here. A card which I'm missing that I took out but I should put back in is Soul Charge. If you have a field full of special summon monsters, Lazuli does huge amounts of damage, plus is able to attack as well, so that usually works out well. And you want to have loads of those because Lazuli's effects can also be used and recycled by Gem Knight Master Diamond. Gem Knight Master Diamond likes to have a toolbox in his graveyard. Any level 7 or lower Gem Knight in the graveyard he can banish and then take their effects, so you can do Lazuli's effect again to burn even more, burn your opponent even more. Alternatively, you could go for Ruby, who can increase its attack and also do piercing damage, or do Topaz, who gains a Flare Wingman's effect. He can attack twice per battle phase, plus inflict the damage to your opponent equal to the attack of the destroyed monster. And with his own effect, where he gains 100 attack for each gem monster in your graveyard, he's a pretty big monster to deal with. Finally, you've got Sokonia. Sokonia is really good. I hear some people like to use him for rank 8 plays, but I never really get the opportunity to, so I don't do that. But he's just versatile. He's any Gem Knight plus any rock monster, which is pretty much the whole entire deck, so, you know, go nuts with him. And Prismora is there for some removal if you need that too. So hopefully guys, you've enjoyed this kind of breakdown of Gem Knights. Hoping this encourages a couple more people to play. Thank you for seeing this redone version of the episode which I did last week. I hope the quality of this is a bit better. And let me know if you prefer this kind of format where you hear a bit of the lore, then see a duel, and then see a deck profile all in one video. I think I want to try and make my videos a bit more concise that way, but feedback is always appreciated. Thank you very much for tuning in, guys, and yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Take care.